Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ebony Janice. I go by Ebony Janice, which means that you should call me Ebony Janice. And today we're about to talk about hush harbors. So I'm going to take you back to the woods because before we had a single building, we were allowed to call our own. We had the woods. We had the hush harbor. If you don't know what that is, let me put it in plain clothes. When our people were enslaved on this land, they were given a church. They were given a church, but it was not their church. It was the master's gospel, and the master's gospel had one sermon: obey. That was the sermon. Servants, obey your masters. Be content in your suffering, and your reward will come in heaven. Which is to say, not here and not now, in heaven, someplace that I'm trying to tell you about. That was the theology that they were handed, and that was the God that they were handed that blessed their captivity. And our people heard that and knew all the way down in the body that this was a lie. So they did something that I think we should really sit with. They didn't stay and argue with that church. They didn't even try to reform it from the inside. They waited until night, and many of them slipped off into the woods, into a clearing under a brush arbor they built with their own hands, and they held church on their own terms. They called it a hush harbor because it had to stay hushed. They would turn a pot or a kettle upside down on the ground because the old folks believed it would catch the sound and to keep their praise from carrying back to the big house. Think about that. People who owned nothing, who were not even allowed to own themselves, built a sanctuary out of nothing but trees and night and one another. And inside that sanctuary, they didn't preach obey, they preached freedom. They preached God who wanted them out of captivity. They imagined out loud in the dark a world that did not exist yet for them. That's a hush harbor. And I'm telling you that this was the first Mbongi on this soil. Because an Mbongi is the gathering place. It is where the community comes together to think, to grieve, to settle things, to dream the next thing into being. And every alternative imagination our people have ever had got built in a space like that, off to the side of the one that was sanctioned for them. The hush harbor became the dinner table. The dinner table became the beauty shop and the porch and the kitchen and the group chat. That's the sanctuary. We have always built the real gathering just outside the official one because the official one was never built to set us free. Catch that. The official thing was never built to set us free. So here's what I need us to hear. Alternative imagination is not some new radical thing that we are inventing. It is the oldest thing that we have ever done. Our ancestors were imagining otherwise under threat of death, in the dark with a kettle on the ground turned upside down. You imagining a different life, a different love, a different way of being together, you are not being naive, you are doing ancestral work. You come from people who built freedom in a clearing where freedom was illegal. And we have to do it again. And again and again and again and again. Maybe not this time in the woods, but we have to do it together. We have to gather on purpose. We have to build the hush harbor again. The small sanctioned room where we tell the truth that the big house does not want told. Where we refuse to obey a gospel that doesn't want us to be free. Where we refuse to let other people tell us that we don't deserve to be free. Or that God doesn't love us or God hates us. And so we need a particular kind of God in order to redeem us of the hatefulness that we deserve from God. I ain't talking about nothing but what I'm talking about. Anyways, that is the Mbongi. That is the work. That has always been the work. I want us to, in my closing, I want us to think about gatekeeping more. That there's something inside of Mbongi that is completely communal, and the community understands that some things just belong to us. We cannot keep giving out all the clues, all the background, all the details and specifics, because some of what we have to do is just going to start with us hushing up.